So I want to give a brief FYI. This upcoming week, on Friday, you know how we normally get JoJo on Friday, it's JoJo Fridays. This upcoming Friday, it will be the last episode of JoJo airing on a Friday. And then it will go on break for about 2 to 3 weeks and air on the 28th of July with a 1-hour special. So it's kind of sad, really, because it basically reminds us that JoJo is about to be over. Like, the journey of Part 5 is about to come to an end with just 2 more episodes, but if you factor in the hour-long special, I guess it's 3, but the point is that next week will be the final time we get JoJo on a Friday for a while, and then we'll have to wait a few weeks until Sunday when it airs on July 28th. It feels like this series has been around for a while, and it has. It's been around since, like, pretty much this entire year already, and seeing that it's about to come to an end really does leave me with a pit in my chest, because I love this series. I think Part 5 has really rekindled my love for the story of JoJo, and I think many can agree that this has been a very different part compared to the previous, parts of JoJo. Just, Diavolo as a villain is extremely interesting, but also just seeing the style of this part is also just amazing as well. So, it's gonna be sad when, next week rolls around, we get the episode for JoJo, and then we gotta wait until the 28th. It's just gonna be sad to know that it's pretty much coming to an end, and I'm willing to bet we're going to eventually get a Part 6 anime. I mean, come on. David Productions wouldn't go this far animating Part 1 all the way to Part 5 without animating Part 6 and onward, so I do believe that there will be more JoJo. The thing is when will we get more JoJo? And if I had to assume, we're probably going to have to wait probably until maybe 2020 until maybe we get any information on the continuation of JoJo's anime, so it's probably going to be a bit, and it's sad to really think about that. But okay. Let's get into this episode. So, the beginning of this episode of JoJo is probably one of the saddest moments, even sadder, kind of, than the Narancia death, because Doppio as a character, when you think about him, he is someone that, yes, we know he's the main antagonist, like, alongside of Diavolo, but Doppio is not necessarily straight up evil. He just truly believes in the boss, follows the boss, and he's kind of been manipulated to be in the situations he's in, because the dominant personality, which was Diavolo, took control of the situation of their life and ruined him. I mean, when you really think about it, if Diavolo never really popped up and what happened back in his hometown never went down, Doppio might have had a girl he met, been able to have a family, happiness, and all that, but that did not happen. And so Doppio's life kind of went off the tracks pretty quickly thanks to Diavolo's intervention. So, I feel bad for that final moment, because the last thing he actually has in his life is Boss, Diavolo. And when you see him just laying backwards, like, just laying down in the rain, it's hitting him, and he's in Bruno's body, and he's just like, Boss, I see where you're at now, I know where you're at, you can win this and all that. But he's like, I wish you would call me one more time. It's an extremely emotional moment, because it signifies now that this is the first time that Doppio has ever really been separated from Diavolo since they were born, actually. But that's the thing, though, is that even though the relationship is obviously very one-sided or very abusive in a way, it's sad that the only thing he had left was Diavolo, and now that they're separated, it's like he lost a part of himself, and he lost the only thing he had remaining. So that was a sad moment, just seeing how he's like, Boss, please call me, and then the scene ends. It basically says that Doppio's life pretty much came to an end. But okay, anyways, let's talk about the rest of the episode. So, most of the episode is spent revealing the secrets on Silver Chariot Requiem and also which body Diavolo is really in. And overall, the reveal of Diavolo being inside of Mista's body, which is sharing the soul with Trish right now, it actually has kind of been in our face since the very beginning. Like that reveal of, Trish being there, because when you think about the ending song of JoJo, of this part, you will see where there's a pillar of stands going up, and when you see a moment to where, King Crimson, how it's holding Trish's stand, and it's very significant because within this episode, you see how King Crimson, Diavolo, grabs Trish's stand and holds her in place to be able to move the body, so that's kind of been in our face with that foreshadowing for a little bit now, and, it makes sense, but Anyways, Diavolo as a villain is really starting to crank up, because you can see now that his ability is very scary, and at the same time, the way he's able to think about a situation and even take down something like Silver Chariot Requiem is pretty scary, because he was able to figure out the one way to defeat it that I don't think many were really able to figure out in the first place, which was the shadow of Silver Chariot Requiem and what it does. So every individual that actually looks at the new Silver Chariot, they see a shadow that's going away, kind of basically the opposite direction, which kind of shows that, the shadow is coming off of you, because the stand, Silver Chariot, is connected with your very soul. It's like the shadow of your soul itself, which explains why your stand would attack you, because if you're technically attacking Silver Chariot Requiem when it's a shadow of your soul, and since a stand is technically your soul in general, it makes sense now why attacking the shadow would hurt yourself, because it's like you're hitting your own soul itself. So that is why a stand just straight up, fights for Silver Chariot Requiem. But it doesn't just end there, though. It's also the point that to be able to come up with something like that is pretty ridiculous, because you had it to where King Crimson, he had to literally punch, like, the light behind his head, which was to be able to put out the light that was shining on Silver Chariot. It's kind of ridiculous in a way and bizarre, which fits in with the tone of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it's just so outlandish I think many are just going to be completely surprised by it. But it's also very meta in a way. When you think about Silver Chariot Requiem, every time we as the viewer have seen the stand by itself without anyone really being in the screen, the shadow has been in the direction to where if it was our shadow, our very soul that, we were looking at. For instance, when we were viewing the screen, watching the episode, the shadow is literally our shadow, which is really freaking cool when you think about it. It's really cool to think that, David Productions and even Araki, they went out of their way to make the shadow kind of be very meta, where the people that are reading the series or watching the series, they were linked with the stand as well. So it's just really cool. I like those little details that they throw in, especially within this episode. But, there's another thing too, when it comes to the shadow of the soul. I think it's very symbolic in a way, and I don't think many are probably going to be talking about this one. It's symbolic that Diavolo, King Crimson, was the one to take down, Silver Chariot Requiem. And let me explain. When you think about it, Diavolo as an individual, he is another part of Doppio's soul. And he's kind of like, in a way, a shadow. When you think about his entire existence throughout the entirety of Part 5, he has wanted to remain within the shadows. Nobody to know who he is. When you think about his overall appearance before it was revealed what he really looks like, he was always shadowed. His silhouette was always covered in shadow. And that's cool because it goes along with that theme. With Silver Chariot Requiem shining a light on him, it's kind of like it's giving him to where everybody could see him. He's represented as someone that's in the light, but obviously he does not like it. So it's cool that he is the one to take out the shadow itself, because he wants to remain in the shadow instead of being in the light, which was shining on the shadow. So, like I said, it's very symbolic, and I do think that it's cool, though, that you can also look at Diavolo as the shadow of Doppio, because he was always in the background, in his mind, always being able to control the things behind the scenes and ruining the life of Doppio itself. You could say that he was always a shadow. So there's a lot of symbolism there when it comes to King Crimson and Diavolo and Silver Chariot Requiem, especially with how it was revealed. But anyways, let's talk about the reveal of which body Diavolo was in. So Diavolo was in Mista's body, which was sharing the body with Trish. Now, this is to be expected, because as we know with how Doppio was obviously in Bruno's body, it must have meant that Diavolo got split from him and probably went into someone else's body. The question is, who really was it? And come to find out, it's Mista's body with Trish, and they're able to use both stands at the same time. You see to where Trish uses her stand, but in turn, it gives an opening for King Crimson Diavolo to attack Trish's stand, to actually remote control her and move the body. It's actually scary, but also ingenious of how that was done. Because when you think about it, it's also something that's been established for a long time. You hurt a stand, then obviously it hurts your main body. Like we see Giorno within this episode, when, he tries to figure out if, Bruno in Diavolo's body had Diavolo also there as well. you see to where Giorno's hand gets completely severed off and hits the ground because of his stand golden experience getting his hand severed. It's always been to where the stands are linked. When the stands take damage, then that means that, you know, the body takes damage as well. And so seeing in that moment where he was able to grab Trish's stand and be able to move the body because of the stand, honestly makes perfect sense, because he's grabbing the manifestation of Trish's soul itself and literally forcing the stand to move, which in turn, because of how the souls interact with stands, it would force the body to move. It actually makes perfect sense in a way. It does just work when you think about how stands fight each other. So I like that little element of how he literally started to control Mista's body like a robot, just moving and also using time skip to skip forward and to get closer and closer to the arrow. It's a great moment, honestly, and I think it's going to catch everybody by surprise that did not see it coming, especially as anime onlys, and just in turn, like I said, something like this has always been in our face with how stands kind of work. Now, another thing, too, is that moment to where King Crimson, he gets super angry with his daughter. That was, honestly, an insane cliffhanger. It's a brutal cliffhanger in a way, because soon as he realizes that he couldn't get the arrow, and the arrow was flying through the air, and he's like, you angered me. I'm really angered, my daughter. I wish you weren't born, or whatever. And you just see him go in, and he punches Trish's stand, which in turn hurts Mista and donuts himself. Like, you know, the iconic donutting, like what happened to Polnareff and what's happened to Bruno, many characters throughout the story. You have it to where he actually donuts himself to be able to propel his body towards the arrow quick enough before anyone else grabs it. That's honestly ingenious as well, because what villain would literally donut themselves to get to what they need? That's kind of crazy, honestly. And he was also using time skip to be able to do that too. He was using time skip to be able to fly over people's heads to get to the arrow. I mean, when you really think about it, JoJo really does so much outlandish things. Like, if you would have not seen this scene before, okay, and you were to think about how Diavolo was to get closer to the arrow, I'm willing to bet you most likely would have never believed that he would legitimately donut himself just to get over to the arrow before someone else can actually grab it. It's scary. But I think that's about it, though. It's a good episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm sad to see that it's going to be coming to an end. I do hope that, you know, there is a part 6 announced very quickly. But I guess I'll see you guys next week, you know, on Friday when JoJo airs once again for the last time on Friday for a while. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And with that, Chibi out.